Hello everyone from Bangkok, Thailand, and today I'm going to give the definitive comparison of Thai girls versus Filipina. Now, how can I do that? Well, here's my bona fides. I've lived in Thailand for over 20 years. I've had 3 long-term girlfriend relationships here in Bangkok in the last 10 years. I've dated, a lot of Thai women. Okay, I just finished a 1-year solo motorcycle tour of the Philippines. And during that time, I interacted with hundreds of women and met and dated in some form over 100 women. So, I think I have the background that very few people do. So today I want to give you my life experience and help you understand the difference between Filipina and Thai. And I'm not going to say that one is necessarily better than the other. There are goods and bads and differences between the two. But that's what we're here today to talk about.
You want a dog? No, I got a cat.
So, before we begin, I want to ask a question. Have you ever had pets? Most notably, have you ever had a dog or a cat? And you know that ancient burning question, do you like dogs or cats? You know, dogs, the loyal, lovable sidekick, man's best friend.
My name is Doug. I have just met you, and I love you.
Or cats, the elusive, individualistic animals that are sleek and hard to understand.
There are some biological factors that influence problem behavior in cats. Unlike dogs derived from the highly social wolf, domestic cats are descended from a solitary territorial ancestor. Until the latter half of the 20th century, cats were mainly valued for their abilities as independent hunters, for which a social bond with humans or other cats was unnecessary.
I've personally had a lot of dogs. I've never owned a cat. I've never had a cat as a pet. When I was growing up, I lived on this big, long road. It was like almost literally exactly 1 mile long, and it connected 2 other roads, and it was completely straight. And people drove down that road really fast, like really fast. And there weren't that many cars, just like every 5 minutes or 10 minutes, one single car would go by. Well, that means I went through a lot of dogs because my dogs were always getting hit by the cars. I only had one dog that lasted for a long time, and that was Zeke, and that's because he was a Great Dane. And he was huge. He was much bigger than me. And we'd have a great time wrestling. He'd like bite my whole head, just playfully, and we'd wrestle around on the yard. And he was just so big, the cars saw him and avoided him. He did eventually get hit by a car. He was hit by a Volkswagen, and he totaled it. But anyway, that's a sad story about Zeke, my favorite dog. But we're going to get back to this point about cats and dogs soon. But now let's talk about a few of the differences between Thais and Filipina. The first obvious difference between Thais and Filipina is that they speak English in the Philippines. I lived in Hong Kong for 6 years. I lived in Thailand for over 20 years. When I started spending time in the Philippines, I was literally shocked by how easy it was to talk to people because I'd forgotten how easy it was to speak English and just have people understand you. The vast majority of the people in the Philippines, including women, speak English well enough that you can communicate. That's not true in Thailand. Maybe only about 10 or 15% of people in Thailand can communicate with you well enough to have any kind of conversation. Probably 60% of Thai women would like to have a foreign boyfriend. 40% would not be interested, but 60% would. In the Philippines, it's more like 90-10, maybe 95-5. Women in the Philippines like foreigners, especially Americans. Good luck for me. And so just on a numbers basis, the Philippines has a lot more women who are interested in dating foreign men. So that's great. But what makes it more difficult in Thailand is that even though 60% of the women may enjoy or be interested in dating a foreigner, only 15% of them speak English. So we're talking about maybe 9% of women are actually potentially available to you to talk to and date unless you speak Thai. And I speak Thai, but not that well. Not well enough that I feel like I would start a relationship with someone or be able to communicate in anything but the most basic ways. So just looking at the numbers, there's way more Filipina to date. So we're looking 50-50, 32.5 million female Thais. We're looking at 55 million female Filipinas. The English-speaking 95% to 15%, and the 60% versus 95%. There's just way more Filipina to date than Thai. Way, way, way more. Next, physically. Girls in the Philippines are a little bit rounder. Okay, first of all, if you just do a little Google search about average cup size, girls in the Philippines have larger boobs than they do in Thailand. That's just what the bra companies will tell you. And you walk around, it's pretty obvious. Also, girls in the Philippines are a little bit chubbier and a little bit rounder than girls in Thailand. Girls in Thailand tend to be thinner. On average, generally, that's true. So that depends on a matter of taste. If you like thin girls, then okay, Thai girls are probably more suited to you according to how they look. If you like rounder girls and especially like bigger boobs, then okay, girls in the Philippines will be more attractive to you. In Thailand, it's not that difficult to find women who are in their late 20s or 30s who haven't been married, who don't have kids. In the Philippines, that's not very common. If you meet women, almost all of them, by the time they're in their mid-20s, have had a serious relationship, even if they haven't been married, and probably have kids. And if they're in their 30s, they almost definitely have kids. That's just not true in Thailand. They marry later in their 30s. They have children later. They don't have as many children. In the Philippines, they get married far younger. They're often having children in their early 20s. Hopefully they haven't had a child from some boyfriend in high school, but they have a lot more children. And so it's difficult in the Philippines to find someone who's a little bit more mature and a little bit, in their 30s, has a little bit of life experience, who hasn't been tied down with kids already. It's hard to find that. But in Thailand, that's much more common. It's much easier to find someone who's in their 30s who doesn't have a kid, if that's not what you're looking for. Girls in Thailand are more age conscious. Like a younger girl in her 20s probably isn't going to date a guy who is over 35 or 40 years old, generally. Not always, there's exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, most Thai girls are more age conscious than they are in the Philippines. Okay, they're less age conscious than they are in America, where I'm from, but they're more age conscious than they are in the Philippines. So if you're 45 or 50, okay, you're probably going to be dating women who are in their 30s in Thailand, because girls who are in their 20s, they're probably not going to date a guy who's over 35 or 40. That's about it. In the Philippines, no holes barred. I mean, they say it all the time. Generally speaking, they really believe age is just a number. You're 40, 50, 60. If you're a nice guy, if you're a friendly guy, they don't care how old you are. They really don't. I mean, it's more dangerous there because there are some extremely young girls who will be very willing to date foreign guys. So that's a big difference. This is just a general perception, but my perception is that women in Thailand generally age more gracefully than women in the Philippines. Women in the Philippines tend to get chubby and fat. And part of that's just cultural because they're poor. They're much poorer in the Philippines. In Thailand, there's no comparing the two. Thailand is substantially higher income than the Philippines. And I believe, I'm gonna guess, but I believe that in the Philippines, I think it's like, shows your social status if you're a little bit chubby. You're fat. See, I've got enough to eat. I'm fat. That's cool. Now, again, if you like that, that's better in the Philippines. But, you generally see girls in the Philippines, by the time they're in their mid-20s or late 20s or early 30s, they get pretty chubby. You rarely see women in their 30s who are thin. Thailand, again, it's different. They're far thinner as they get older, and their faces seem to age more gracefully in Thailand. In the Philippines, it just seems like women, sounds so harsh, but often get kind of ugly when they're in their 30s and 40s for whatever reason. Maybe that's just my perception. I don't know, but that's the way I see it. That's my opinion. Another issue is support. Because, okay, I've had 3 girlfriends in Bangkok in the last 10 years, 1 year, 3+ years, and 1.5 years. None of them expected me to give them any money. I mean, I always paid for all the dates and all the travel and gave them gifts and things like that once in a while. Nothing too extravagant. I never gave them iPhones and crazy things like that. But none of them needed money. My first girlfriend, she was earning $3,000 a month, had a very good job. My second girlfriend, she was a student, she was a university student, she's the younger one, but she didn't need money from me. Her family wasn't rich, but she had enough to live and she was fine. And my third girlfriend was a lawyer. None of them needed money from me. But from my experience in the Philippines, it's kind of just a standard, normal thing that part of the relationship is giving them money and maybe even giving money to their families. Usually, often, giving money to their families. So that is quite a big difference. I'm pretty strict about that. Even my friends in Thailand who have started giving really expensive gifts and money to girls, it never works out. It's like you spoil them and then they don't respect you anymore. Anyway, just my thoughts on that. But one of the big differences between Thais and Filipina is the expectation of support. Not so much in Thailand, pretty much always in the Philippines.
I know. It is here too, cats and dogs.
So let's get back to this question about dogs or cats. You're probably wondering why I brought that up. This is why. Generally speaking, Thais are cats, Filipina are dogs. And I don't mean that in any kind of disparaging way. I mean that in the nicest possible way. But it's more of a cultural issue. And here's what I mean. What's a cat like? Cats don't come when you call them. They come when they want to come. Cats have their own minds, and they're very independent. A cat might disappear for a week, come back without an explanation. A cat one day might be wandering around your feet, desperate for attention. The next day wants very little to do with you. That's a cat. What about a dog? A dog is the most loyal friend, waiting for you at the door when you come home, so happy to see you, always there for you, always there to serve you. You are their master, and they love you. That's generally a Filipina. And they're trained at that. Girls in the Philippines are raised to believe that they are the servant of a guy. Now, again, you better consider what you really want. It sounds like a great thing to have, like someone who's in love with you and will do everything for you, but it also might be something that drives you a little bit crazy. And it might be that independent, elusive, difficult to understand cat is more your style, especially in the long term. I don't know. That's something you have to consider. But that's my general perception. Girls in Thailand are like cats. Extremely independent, extremely maybe hard to understand. They'll come to you when they want to see you. They'll ignore you if they want to. But girls in the Philippines, they're like man's best friend, raised to serve you and love you, and will never leave you. Generally speaking, that's how I see it. Okay, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the video. As you can see from a numbers side, there's so many more girls in the Philippines. There are very few language or age restrictions. So more people want to date foreigners, more girls there like foreigners. So from a numbers side, yeah, that's an easy choice. But there may be some other things about Thailand that you find more attractive. So hope you enjoyed the video, and comment and like and share and subscribe. Thank you, guys.